All right, so we just pulled the frame out of the box. It comes in an individual wrapper. Then you insert on each of these tabs, which comes in a small Ziploc bag with 4 screws. So 4 of these tapes on the back. And it's double-sided, so you stick one, take off one side of the tape and put it on the frame. And then when you're ready to place it on the wall, you can take off the back side as well. All right, each of the frames come with 4 of these types of screws, but they're difficult to use, so we recommend switching to this 8A pan head shaft screw. It has the bigger shaft right here, so it's easier to grip the frame and adjust it how far you need it off the wall. So once you get each of these tabs on the back, as we mentioned earlier, these are double-sided, so you can stick it on the frame, and then on this back side you would peel off when you're ready to stick it on the wall. All right, so the customer will determine how high up they want it off the wall, and we'll typically center it as well. So we'll measure the distance from one wall to the other, we'll center it there, and then we'll go up that height, and then we'll mark it, usually with a piece of tape, so we know where our starting point will be. Okay, now we're ready to install. So we take the level to make sure that the frame is going to be level, and we have a mark here in the center of the frame that we use to line up with the mark on the wall, so that we know that everything is level and even. And you place the frame on top of the level and gently press against the wall. So we gently press the frames against the wall because it's occasionally you'll have to readjust them. So taking them on and off, you don't want to remove paint if you press hard enough or if they stay long enough. So there's different types of paints, different types of walls. So just to minimize damage and effort, you just a gentle press will keep it there until you are certain that this is where the frame needs to be. So this is going to be a 36 by 54 inch frame. So it's going to be 3 panels wide, 2 tall, 6 total. Once you have the first frame installed, you can use that as a measurement to which you can place all the other frames. So you don't need any tools to do so. You can just measure with your finger, make sure that these are placed right up alongside of each other and the frames are flat against each other. So right here, and you can just press on like we did before. So just a gentle press. Most surfaces of each wall are not flat, surprisingly. So there's an occasion where the frames, even though these frames are level and flat, they'll catch here, so it'll appear on the outside of the print. So in order to adjust that, you can take off 1 or 2 of the adhesives to allow the frames to match up so that it doesn't press the print out. So what we'll typically do is press on the opposite end of the frame where you want to grab. So I'll hold on tight here and I'll pull this out, and then you can remove the adhesive from behind by rolling it off and then replacing everything back without disrupting the placement of the frame. You can see now without the adhesive it's a little more flush here, so it allows for the print to appear at a more optimal angle. And place the tab here just so that we know that this will need a screw to hold it in place without an adhesive. All right, with the base frame set, we just have another level of 3 here. So typically I'd get the base completed first and then work on the top. I just set it down on top and make sure that the edge here is flush together, and then just gently press against the wall. Using the screw has 2 purposes. 1, to hold it in, and 2, you can also use the screw to pull the frame out off of the wall. So if you're having trouble lining them up, such as this. So you can see the frame came off of the wall to meet the screw, and now we're going to gently ease it back in to make sure it's flush with the frame right next to it. And we also put the screw typically in the corner of the slit here so that it's got the most grip against 3 sides instead of just the 2. Just going to gently ease it back in. So we found that our preference best way of practice is to put a screw in each of the four corners of the total frame to anchor them, and at least 2 screws in each individual frame. That's what we found is best, but whatever you feel is best for your particular project, you can go ahead and do. The main purpose is to make sure that everything is level, such as right here, these are slightly off, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust these to make sure that it's all flush. But pretty much we've gone and checked everything else is lined up pretty well. So I'm getting caught here, so this one's slightly elevated, so this one needs to be pushed in. These are flush together, but again, I'm getting caught here, so this one needs to go in. So both of these, I'm going to put screws in and bring those in together. So if you go in too far, you can always back it out, because now I'm getting caught going back this way instead of this way. You can always back the screw out, and as the screw's backing out, it should pull the frame out with it. All right, whenever you're just anchoring and you're not trying to adjust the height from off of the wall, you want to hold the frame tight, and the screw just needs to go in past this mark right here, so that it's not protruding past, but it's also not hugging it against the wall. So just a happy medium in there, and that should hold it secure. All right, once all the frames are placed and you put all the screws in, you can run your hand across to make sure that everything is level and to your liking, which this one is, and then we can go ahead and install your prints. So you have to roll the print up because it's nearly impossible to lay it all out at once. So if it's rolled up, you can adjust the side, get these all exactly how you need it, and then you can just roll it on in one quick roll with it. And once the print is installed, you can just come down here to make sure that the print does cover all of the frames behind. And once you've understood and done this process, you can get it all done in roughly 10 minutes. So we're starting our second install here, and failed to mention, as you're installing, and before you put the adhesive on the wall, you want to wipe off the wall and remove any dust, dirt, or grime, so that you can make sure that each of those adhesives on the back of the frames would stick to the wall. So depending on the number of frames on the base, if it's an even or odd number, if it's odd, like we mentioned earlier, you're going to want to mark the center of the frame right here so that it would line up with your mark. If it's an even number of frames on the bottom as your base, then it's going to be in between 2 frames. So you're going to mark it with the corner of one of those frames. So here's an example once you have everything set of how quickly you can install these last few frames. Just slide, place, and press.
That's fast.
That's fast. We've got all the frames in place, so now I'm going to use my hands to just feel around to make sure that there's no lips or edges in between the frames. So found one here, got one here and here. So it just appears to be the inside of these 2, so I'll probably just pull these 4 out, and then everything will be level. And then I'll anchor in and place another few screws sporadically throughout to make sure and anchor the rest of the frames. So I've finished the install of the frames, and I felt all of the lines and the seams, and by feel they felt right. They felt like where they're supposed to be. I'm going to go ahead and install the print, and then I'm going to do a visual check afterward. So if any of them are more protruded than the other, then I'll go ahead and roll the print back up, and then you can adjust however needed. All right, as I'm rolling the print out, I'm going to use my right hand as a guide underneath to make sure that the print is covering all of the frame before I roll all the way out, so I can check it as it's going. And there you go. So I'm going to take a look from the side to see if I can catch any light or anything that is off on the frames.